Hey! Hi, how you doing? This is the Gamertron and welcome back to the Gamertron Show. In my last video, I talked about the importance of enemy encounters in single-player action games. And now, in this video, I would like to share with you my top 5 favorite encounters I have experienced and enjoyed from a variety of single-player action video games. So let's get right into it. These are my top 5 favorite video game action encounters.
Confidence surges as the enemy crumbles. These nightmarish creatures can be felled, they can be beaten.
Number 5, from Warhammer 40k Space Marine, it's the chapter start of the level Spire of Madness. I really like this encounter for a number of reasons. First off, it's a goddamn dream come true. Seeing Space Marines and Chaos Space Marines. Just seeing them duke it out in a full-fledged battle taking place on this broken bridge. And since this section takes place on a bridge and your objective is on the other side of the bridge, you have to push forward in a straight line through enemy forces. And as you progress through this section, it's an incredibly satisfying feeling of defeating an overwhelming force, as you just keep pushing forward, making your way to the end of the bridge. However, the mechanics at play and the options available to you in this encounter also make it all the more enjoyable and memorable. First off, the game gives you a variety of weapons to pick from. So if you have a preferred loadout or weapon playing Space Marine, the game gives you a good amount of options in weaponry if you want to change out. And to counter you getting all this super powerful weaponry, the game throws in this encounter every Chaos enemy type in the game. Renegade Militia, Chaos Space Marines, Heavy Weapon Chaos Marines, Bloodletter Demons, Tainted Psychers, Chaos Drones. So you have this one long, huge, linear path filled with all these enemy types, and it gives you all these weapons, while at the same time, for one of the very few moments in the game, you have multiple ally NPCs that can take aggro from enemies, as well as deal damage and help you push forward. This whole encounter I found unique, challenging, and fun. You had to find a balance of taking cover, shooting enemies from afar, and charging in to engage the enemies in melee combat. And this section of the game is one of the very few sections where you get to use an automatic heavy cannon. The design, the setting, the actual gameplay that occurs from this encounter, I just love it. It's a lot of fun, and I find myself replaying this section of the game over and over again. Number 4, from Wolfenstein The New Order, the first half of Return to Death's Head's Compound. The final level of the game, Return to Death's Head's Compound, is split into 2 halves. One half being the boss battle with Death's Head himself, but the first half is literally just killing every goddamn Nazi you see. This long, crazy, intense encounter has you moving from open area room to open area room, with cover taking the form of architecture in very strategic places in said arena rooms, along with some verticality with some stairs and walkways, hidden tunnels you can crawl through and flank the enemy. Just the overall level design and architecture built around these shootouts with hordes of Nazis, it's very well and very cleverly constructed. And speaking of Nazis, this level contains almost, not every type, but almost every Nazi enemy type in the game, especially the heavy units. Shotgunners, rocket launchers, super soldatens, and robots. Basically, all the heavy-hitting enemies of the game are present and brought together in this level. However, so are all the weapons. This is one of the very few levels in the entire game where you get to use every single weapon. And you get ammunition for every single weapon, giving you the options, firepower, and variety to take on all the regular Nazi mooks and the big guys. And switching between the different weapons to deal with the different enemy types is essential. Using your rocket launcher attachments on your assault rifles to take on the super soldatens and rocket troopers, maybe even the shotgunners. Switching to your shotguns when the shotgunners or mooks get too close to you. Using your laser weapons to deal heavy damage to the super soldatens and the robots. Perhaps snagging a heavy energy machine gun to do some real damage. Oh, there's so many possibilities and so many enemies to kill in this encounter. I wish more of Wolfenstein The New Order was like this final mission, or at least that The New Order kept going after this final mission, because it's so much fun to fight all these Nazis with all these weapons. But then again, if the entire game were like the first half of the final mission, then it wouldn't make the first half of the final mission, or the final mission as a whole, as special as it is. Number 3. Every Stalker encounter from Dead Space 2. Now, I know I'm cheating with this one, but I can't help it. The Stalkers are some of my favorite enemies from video games ever, and my absolute favorite enemy to fight in the Dead Space franchise as a whole. I love the Stalkers. Their dynamic AI and tactics, their intelligence and unique combat style, how your strategy as a player needs to adapt, finding a balance of defensive and offensive when fighting these things. And what I'm about to say here is by no means bashing on the game, but every Stalker encounter is pretty similar to one another. However, that's not necessarily a bad thing. There is just enough stuff in terms of changes to the environment and whatnot that do vary the encounters. But usually it's the same deal when you run into the Stalkers. You're in a room with a ton of cover, obstacles, and corners. The Stalkers run all over the environment, take cover in various areas, and wait to charge and or ambush you. And there's multiple ways to engage the Stalkers. Wait for them to charge at you, hit them with stasis, then shoot at them. Use the detonator and place a bunch of mine traps so that when they charge at you, they run to your mine traps, or place mine traps behind you in case they try to flank you, leaving a little surprise for them and having you protected. Stasis and kinesis also play a big role, stasising the Stalkers, or using kinesis to grab and throw objects, like explosive canisters or stasis canisters. Depending on how you use stasis, kinesis, and what weapons you bring, and also whether you decide to play defensively and patient wait for the Stalkers to come to you, or you play offensively and go after the Stalkers. Hit them before they even attempt to hit you. God damn it, I just love the Stalkers. I love the Stalkers from Dead Space, and I love fighting them, so I can't pick just one encounter, one scenario where you fight the Stalkers. I gotta pick all of them from Dead Space 2. Number 2, from Mass Effect 3, the final battle with the Reapers in the mission Priority Earth. This is the last moment of actual combat gameplay in Mass Effect 3 before starting the controversial ending. And oh boy, for the game's final combat sequence, it throws everything at you. Every single type of Reaper enemy unit from every direction. And what I love about this combat sequence, this encounter, is also a part of why I love Mass Effect so much. The customization, replayability, and variety, depending on which crew members you take, what weapons you bring, what class your character is. It's going to affect a number of different factors in this encounter. I mean, you're going up against husks, marauders, cannibals, ravengers, brutes, banshees, and even harvesters, all while slowly a Reaper in the foreground slowly and surely makes its way closer and closer to you, while the epic music plays in the background amongst this devastated, almost apocalyptic environment with gunfire and explosions and radio chatter, and the screams and howls of Reapers all around you. It gives you this shot of adrenaline and emotion, while at the same time you've got to keep you cool, you got to keep your head, and you got to strategize. Depending on where the Reapers are coming from, which Reaper units are coming, and where you have your squad mates placed, where are they taking cover? What abilities and weapons are you going to have them use in order to counter the enemy and give you an advantage over them? Did you bring multiple ammo types, like incendiary or armor piercing, which will help you with the tougher enemy types, especially the brutes and banshees, with packs of brutes coming in one after the other? Do you have any heavy weaponry to use, or will you have your entire team focus fire when the harvesters arrive? And finally, how you tackle the not one, not two, but 3 banshees that engage you all at once. Just the setting and the gameplay for this encounter is epic, challenging, fun, and really pushes the player to their limits in weapon, squad, and environment management. All your skill and progress with the Mass Effect combat system is brought to the test in this final combat encounter. And my number 1 favorite action combat encounter from video games is from Crysis 2, the beginning section of the level Walk in a Park. The final mission of Crysis 2 is literally just one combat scenario after another, constantly having you engaging Seth enemies through a completely wrecked and destroyed Central Park. However, the very first combat scenario you engage with, to me at least, embodies and amplifies what I love about the Crysis series. Customization, freedom of choice, replayability, and forming a plan of attack. The encounter starts off with free Ceph grunts guarding and patrolling an entrance to a wide open area. Now, depending on how you attack these opening grunts, if you engage them stealthily, get some stealth kills on them, you can enter the larger area where all the other Ceph are waiting, unknowing of your arrival. However, if you go in guns blazing with those free opening grunts, they will sound an alarm, and the Ceph waiting on the other side will prepare and take cover and take position, waiting for you to come in. So, before you even encounter the bulk of the encounter, you're immediately given a choice in how you want to engage the enemies and how the enemies will engage you. God, that is what I love so much about Crysis and its dynamic AI and dynamic combat system. God, I love Crysis. And where the bulk of the encounter takes place, the actual fight with this huge group of Ceph, consisting of grunts, grunt commanders, a heavy, and another heavy that will join after you destroy the first heavy. You're also given the choice of a variety of weapons: the automatic Jackal shotgun, the LMG, the Grendel burst-fire assault rifle, the very customizable Scarab assault rifle. You're also given a ton of explosives, C4, and rocket launchers. And the actual environment this encounter takes place is not only vertical, but filled with cover. There's a ton of cover, nooks and crannies, and ammo boxes scattered throughout. And this being Crysis, there are just endless ways to engage the Ceph. You can be stealthy and slowly take them out one by one. Flank them, get around them, and surprise attack them, using their own cover against them. Or use the cover yourself, use maximum armor, become a tank, move from cover to cover, while dishing out damage with whatever weapons you bring, and carefully managing your explosives to take out the heavies. There are just so many things I love about this encounter: the environment, the way it's constructed, all the cover, the amount of Ceph you get to fight, the amount of weapons you get to pick from, and this being Crysis, the amount of customization and replayability and freedom of choice in how you want to engage enemies in combat, whether it be stealthy, guns blazing, a mix of the two, or something all your own. Crysis's combat system and nanosuit abilities already make just about all the encounters in the Crysis trilogy, the Crysis first-person shooter games, an absolute blast to play and replay. But this encounter from Crysis 2, if you put a gun to my head and force me to choose, this would have to be my favorite one. Literally, the only thing it is missing is my favorite video game enemy of all time, the Pinger. If this had a Pinger, it would be the absolute perfect encounter. But anyways, those are my favorites, those are my choices. Those are my top 5 favorite action combat encounters from video games. What are yours? Let me know in the comment section below. I love reading comments. I get nearly enough comments. Please leave a comment. If you like the video in any way, shape, or form, please hit the like button. Hitting the like button helps you, helps me, helps everybody involved with the video if you hit the like button. And if you want to support me and help me out, my channel and my videos, then please share this video on social media, Twitter and Facebook. And if you want to support me directly, then please consider pledging and becoming a patron on my Patreon. Anyways, that's been a video, and I will see you all later.